Welcome back, everybody. In this week's video, we are going to be using the sodium silicate slip that we made in last week's video. We're going to apply it to a smooth vase to make it have some texture. So if that's something that you guys want to see, stick around and find out how we do it. So we are ready to transform our smooth vase into this vase right here. What you'll need is just your sodium silicate mixture, a brush to mix it up, and then just putting it on the pottery wheel to then spin. So if you don't know how or what sodium silicate or sodium silicate slip is, please go ahead and watch my previous video. The link is in the description below, and it goes over how to make this and explains a little bit what a sodium silicate solution is. But enough about that. Let's get this on the wheel so that we can decorate it. We're going to go ahead and apply the slip that we made. Now I made this batch ahead of time, but one interesting thing about the sodium silicate when you mix it into the slip is it kind of hardens, and it's going to be kind of like cake frosting until you mix it up. So you can see from the overhead cam that it's kind of chunky, so you always should mix it really well. And you don't need the immersion blender to mix it once you have the sodium silicate in. You just need a brush, in this case this one. And you can see from the overhead cam, once I start mixing it, that really kind of hard looking texture gets into a nice smooth, very thick frosting like texture after that. Thicker than that kind of gelled, kind of like hardened sugar. But anyway, once you give it a good mix, this is ready to apply. So I'm going to keep this on the side, and it's really good to mix it as you guys are applying it because it does start to kind of stiffen up really quickly. So put that aside, we'll get the piece on top. And this was already trimmed in the last video. You could apply the slip before you trim, but I like trimming first because then I don't have to worry about the bottom too much. I just got to make sure not to apply too much so it gets on the bottom. So I want to stop before and center this as best as you can. So I already pre-centered it. It is a little off-center, but that's fine. And the dryness. You want this to be a little wetter than your trimming consistency. If it's too wet, it takes a long time for the sodium silicate slip to dry. If it's too dry, there's some cracking and adhering issues. So a little in between trimming, a little wetter than that is good. And so clay bodies, definitely, depending on your clay body, you have to experiment to see what works best for you. But for me, I like it a little wetter than trimming consistency, so I sprayed some water on it. Okay, so application. There are a few ways to apply it. What I like doing is I like spinning it and then using the brush to kind of just gloop it on. Apply it really thick at the top, and then I'm going to spread it out using my hands. Some other people, they like applying it with scooping it onto their hands and applying it. But anyway, you can apply it whatever way you want. So I applied it really thick. You can see gravity's already bringing it down. There's some cool raised texture here, but I'm just going to go ahead and use my hands now and then get my hands wet with the slip, and then I'm going to start spreading it out. So you can see that I have it in my hand now, and I'm just working down the piece to get a nice even application first. So just bringing it down so it's not so thick at the top. And you don't really need too much. And so I'm just kind of swiping my hand just so it's not so stuck in one spot. Mostly thinning out the top because I did apply a lot. And that's pretty much it. That's all you do. If you don't like it, you can just take a rubber rib and put it on the surface and then take away what you don't want. But I kind of like what I see so far, so I'm just gonna start spreading it out a little more. So I'm trying to just cup my hands to collect it. You can see on the top camera that it collected in my hand there, and then kind of spread that out. And then kind of like my wavy texture I did with just my hands when I threw, I'm kind of doing that same kind of undulating motion, but not too dramatic because I don't want to go too wild. And it's kind of swipe it across. Let's get a little more thick at the top, and let's go ahead and then just gloop it on, going back down, doing that kind of wavy line texture. All right, and then just do as much or a little movement as you want. So sometimes less is more. And the cool thing is when it's really thick, like I said, you just scrape it off. You can reapply it to spots you want it. If you want to see more ceramic videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. That way it helps grow the channel and you'll be able to see these videos as they're released every week. Okay, and I want to add a little more. So another way you can add it is just scoop it out with your hands or use the brush to apply it to your hands like this. And I have a lot, and I can just kind of go back and add another layer. Squeeze it out. It looks a little thick to play. So this is the part that's pretty fun. If you just use your fingers like this, you can get more line work. I want more swiping spirally, so do more thicker chunks like this. There you go, I think I like that. And then all the excess I want to save, so I'm going to try to put it back into the container. So take as much off the brush as possible. Put that on the side, and I get the rib, and I just scrape that against my hand and put it back into the container. And one thing about the sodium silicate slip, you want to try your best not to get this mixed into your throwing water or your throwing slip, because this material, the sodium silicate, can cause issues when you re-knead this back into your throwing clay. Because it's a deflocculant, it will make it harder for you to actually throw your piece, and it may not hold up to the shaping and pulling of your wall. So make sure that if you use sodium silicate slip, always keep it separate, and if you somehow get it into your other clay, you should just throw that away. So try your best to clean your area well, treat it as like plaster. You don't want to mix this into your reclaim. Okay, so that looks pretty good. There's one little swipe here I want to adjust, so I'm just using my finger to spread that out. Okay, and then there's some extra here, so I'm just going to smooth that out. So the cool thing with this slip is you can spot check it after you are done applying. So right here I want to blend that edge in, so getting my pinky just to kind of smooth that out a little bit. It was pretty thick in that spot, so I'm just going to push that a little more. Kind of bring it down so it's not so thick in that one area. So kind of spreading that out a little. And so now that it had time to dry, it's actually getting a little more gloopy, and so it has more body to it now, and I can go back and kind of flatten areas out that looked a little too bulky and really get that kind of slip overlapping feel. So that looks a little better. I really like that. Okay, and then now I basically leave it here. I let it spin slowly, and once the slip is not as shiny, I can pick it up and move it. The bottom I definitely will wipe clean because I don't want all that gloopiness over there. If you can get your hands in the top and pull it, you can also move it like that. So I'm going to go ahead and wash my hands, and then I'm going to move this so I can clean the board, and I'm going to let this dry naturally. So I'm going to let it spin slowly for now as I clean my hands. So we're going to go ahead and move this now. You could just let it dry slowly on the pottery wheel, but if you can pick it up from the inside, you can easily move it, and that way you can clean your area, and that way it's not sitting in slip. But you gotta be careful because when I picked it up, my rim actually warped a little bit because the slip added moisture. So maybe don't pick it up right away. So learn from my mistakes. And we're gonna slip up one more piece. I wanna clean this up first. So scrape all that off if you can. Save it if you want. That way you don't need to mix up as much. And then sponge it clean whenever you can. So let's go clean this and we'll be right back. We're gonna slip up one more piece. So I wanna mix this up again because it does tend to stiffen up quite fast. And last time I poured the slip on, this time I'm gonna put it on my hands and apply it with that instead. I'll put this off to the side. And the benefit of using slip is if your outside is really messy, this kind of hides it. Let's go ahead and center this piece. It doesn't have to be perfectly centered. It just helps with the application process. Okay, there we go. And so this time, normally if I had a bigger container, I would just literally scoop it with my hand. But because this one's kind of tiny, I'm going to use the brush just to plop it on. And it does feel really weird. It's like putting yogurt in your hand. And ironically, this is a yogurt container. But we don't need too much. And you're just going to spin it. And I'm going to kind of squeeze like I'm squeezing some toothpaste to get it applied. And then I'm just going to go ahead and start lathering it on. So the first layer, it always looks a little thin. So just kind of getting it on. And I ran out already, so I'm going to get some more. If you want, you could just use your brush to apply it too. I noticed that the brush tends to move it from one spot to another though, rather than evenly apply, so I like using my hands or just pouring it on. And then, like I said before, if you don't like what you see, you can just take the rib and then just remove the whole thing or just certain spots. And then it gets on the rib and you just apply it to your hands. So, really easy to fix any issues. And just remember, sometimes less is more. Let's try to get more on the bottom. And I always try not to apply too much because cleaning this up is really hard, especially if you get it stuck on the bottom. It can make your foot really, really soft and then just makes it harder for you to clean up. Apologies for the loud horn noises outside. So a little more. Got some excited people outside. Excited for some slip action. Alright, that was a bad joke, sorry. Okay, and then same thing, just apply where you want it. And do as little or as much movement as you want. And there's no really right or wrong way. You just apply and you see how it looks. And then if you like it, let it air dry. If you don't, remove it and try again. And so I have extra slip on my hands, just like last time. Try to keep all the slip contained in one spot. And if you are using a system where everything you wash in the sink becomes reclaim, try your best not to wash your hands in that same sink. Because this, even though it's a little bit amount, this can mess up the reclaimed clay. So always try to keep it separate. Alright, so I'm going to wash the rest. I'm going to take all this stuff and wash it. And that is basically the slip application. And I'm going to let it air dry. And then with the power of YouTube magic, we'll see how it looks once it is fully dry. So let it spin and then clean up. One thing I forgot to mention, if you want to keep your slip from drying out over long periods of time, I recommend wiping the rim so there's no clay on here, no slip on here, wiping the lid too, and then get a bag big enough where you can kind of cover the whole thing. And so what I do is, this is a 10-gallon waste paper bag, and basically I can put this inside at the very bottom, take the bag put it on top like this, push it through, push it tight so that it seals, cover, and then the rest of the bag I will cover a second time, wrap it around, so it's basically double bagging it, and then I twist. So the weight of the bag basically keeps it sealed. You can see that it's pretty airtight, and this hopefully now will stay preserved in this state a little longer. So the next time I want to slip up a piece, I'm good to go. So let's put this on the side, and as the pieces are drying, let's see how long it takes so I can start cleaning up the bottom, and then we'll get it. Maybe we'll add another bit of extra decoration to it. And here we are, the 2 ore vases decorated with our sodium silicate slip. Now, could I have added more slip to make this look thicker? Yeah, I could have. But as a demo piece and as a first attempt, for you guys anyway, this is what I would recommend starting off with, and then you can always dial up the slip as you get used to this technique. Now, I had to let this dry out for about 4 hours. A few of those hours was underneath the ceiling fan. The rest was just drying out naturally in the studio. And now it is dry to the touch. It is evened out. Everything feels more or less the same consistency. So this is now ready to dry out completely to put into the bisque kiln so I can get this ready to glaze. Or now I can decorate this if I wanted to with slip. And that's something that I plan to do in the next video. And in that video, I'm going to be using a brush and I'm going to be brushing on slip to add a little bit of color to this so that it's not just plain. So if that's something that you want to see, don't forget to subscribe. That way you can see the video as it's released every week. And of course, if you liked the video, don't forget to like and comment. And I always love to read you guys' comments and see how these videos are helping or maybe not helping you. And it's such a cool way to build this little community that we have, that we're slowly growing. So that's it. I'm talking too much. I'm going to stop right there. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.